Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm taking it to the Great League, where a trainer is absolutely shredding fairy types with Shadow Magneton. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Tangy Platypus, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, it goes without saying, Shadow Magneton is exceedingly glassy. It's not a Pokemon that's typically recommended for climbing Elo. However, this trainer is able to work magic with Shadow Magneton and absolutely destroy some toxic teams along the way. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we see a pretty decent lead, leading Galarian Moltres into Annihilate. This is the non-Shadow Annihilate, meaning that even an Ice Punch will not be able to secure a knockout here. This is the shiny Galarian Moltres as well, an incredible flex. Moltres calls the Rage Fist bait, overfarms substantially, and looks to take the knockout with the fly. But boosted Annihilates love nothing more than to put up shields. Annihilate puts up the shield, CMP ties Rage Fist to the fly, and Galarian Moltres is more than happy just to let itself get KO'd, as now Shadow Tentacruel will get brought onto the field. This looks like an XXL Tentacruel as well for maximum intimidation factor. Tentacruel has to shield the double boosted Rage Fist, and this Tentacruel has made a very interesting moveset choice. Now, the conventional Tentacruel moveset is Payback as the nuke, but it looks like Tangy is opting for Acid Spray, and it immediately pays dividends as the opponent ends up shielding an Acid Spray to fire off the Rage Fist. They now reveal their next Pokemon is Furret, and Furret is really not going to like this Scald. Scald lands big damage onto the Furret, getting the debuff as well, and Furret is forced to fire off the Swift. Now that Furret is debuffed, it's time for the star of the show. Send in Shadow Magneton. Shadow Magneton farming up energy, opponent switches. In the back, they have Wigglytuff. And oh my goodness, today is a good day. Wigglytuff about to get absolutely vaporized by a Magnet Bomb. And there's more where that came from. Back in comes Furret. There's Magnet Bomb number 2. Down goes Furret. And that is a good game. We move to game number 2, and unfortunately, Wigglytuff is back for revenge, as this time it leads into the shiny Galarian Moltres. The safe switch of Tentacruel is going to be met with a Toadscruel, and now we've got the battle of the Squid. Tentacruel goes for the Acid Spray bait, Toadscruel calls it Ruthless Bait Call, and that's going to make this very, very difficult. Unfortunately, Tentacruel just does not have a way of making it to the Scald without having to give up a shield, so Tentacruel is just going to let itself get KO'd, and instead it's going to be Galarian Moltres going for massive farm. Moltres doesn't really care about wrap damage. Moltres will exit with a ton of energy. Opponent sends in not the Wigglytuff, but they send out Fortress. Fortress going to be baited with the fly. They call the bait. It's the Volt Switch Fortress at that, and again, Magneton is looking primed to sweep. Opponent goes for a Cap Tie here, Rock Tomb to the discharge. They have correctly identified that it's a Shadow Magneton. Even a Rock Tomb would do devastating damage. The shield comes up from Magneton. There's the switch back into the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, oh my goodness, these charms actually doing very important damage onto this Magneton. The shield comes up on the Icy Wind. Magneton farming up and going for the Magnet Bomb. Wigglytuff still has one shield left to hide behind. They put it up here, but Magneton hangs on. It survives the charm damage, and it makes it to Magnet Bomb number 2. This Magnet Bomb, even with the undercharge, will take the knockout. It's going to be a race. Fortress versus the Moltres, and Moltres gets the fly. That's going to be game over. It looks like the opponent rage quit the app as well. Say it ain't so. Fly takes the knockout, and even despite a bad lead, this team is able to fight back and get the win. We move to the next match and see a bit of a tricky lead. Galarian Moltres into Clodsire. Clodsire has super effective damage for this entire team. Earthquake would delete the back Pokemon, and Stone Edge will inflict massive damage onto Moltres. Moltres can survive, but not by much. Moltres farms up to the back-to-back flies, looking to put some pressure on the opponent. Clodsire going to be no shielding. There's fly number 2. Clodsire can hang on, but they would be very, very low. The shield comes up from Clodsire, aggressive pivot into Shadow Tentacruel, and unfortunately Tentacruel is so far behind on energy. The shield comes up, Clodsire goes for the Earthquake, Clodsire staying on the field. There's the switch into Jellicent, and this is where Payback would be really nice, but unfortunately this Tentacruel is not running it. Tentacruel goes for the Scald, the shield comes up, the opponent respects the Payback that Tentacruel did not have. While picking up the shield is nice, Tentacruel doesn't really have a way of damaging this Jellicent, but a Scald debuff is very, very helpful. That makes the Shadow Ball suddenly a lot less threatening. Tentacruel able to hang on. Tentacruel banks the Scald, gets the catch onto the low HP Galarian Moltres. Moltres more than happy to absorb that damage, and now it's time. Waiting down the switch timer, in comes Shadow Magneton. Magneton hits the field, the Volt Switch lands, there's the pivot into the Clodsire outpaces, and unfortunately Magneton is forced to burn the shield. Magneton shields a Stone Edge bait, but you absolutely have to respect it. It's a very safe bait for the opponent. Magneton farms up, fires off the Magnet Bomb. Unfortunately, the Jellicent still has enough HP remaining to make a move. Opponent, are they going to reveal the third here, or will they bring back in the Jellicent? They send in the Jellicent. Jellicent gets there, and that is very bad news. Will Magneton hang on? Magneton gets KO'd. No, it survives on 1 HP. In comes Moltres. Moltres going to be hit with the Acid Spray. Acid Spray should set up this discharge to take the knockout, but I think the Magneton is going to get knocked out by the Hex. It's just too low of HP. You can't even really see that health bar. Jellicent gets the farm down before the Volt Switch registers, and unfortunately, that will be a heartbreaking defeat. We move to the next match, picking up a bad lead, Galarian Moltres into Azumarill. Save Switch Tentacruel answered with a Shadow Drapion, and this is an absolute blast from the past. For many seasons, the Open Great League meta revolved around Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion was the neutral monster, able to win basically any neutral matchup that it wanted to, and even overcoming matchups where it was fully walled like against the Azumarill. But time, power creep, and a crunch nerf have reduced Drapion to relative obscurity. Scald lands, oh my goodness, Tentacruel gets the farm down. Opponent sends in Azumarill, but Azumarill is going to be immediately hit with the Acid Spray. Acid Spray going to reduce their defense by 2 stages, and that means these Volt Switches are going to hurt. Oh my goodness, big damage, but it's a big problem in the back, and his name is Morpeko. I'm very surprised the opponent didn't bring the Morpeko into that Tentacruel, but I guess they saved it for the back, and it paid off because now this Morpeko is looking very scary. Moltres puts up the shield as Morpeko fires off the Electric Aura Wheel and switches to the Hangry form. Unfortunately, they have so much loaded energy. Morpeko fires out the Dark Aura Wheel. That is not enough to KO. Moltres is able to hang on, and Moltres makes the last second Brave Bird. Brave Bird gonna do big damage. Opponent switches out, catches it onto Azumarill. Moltres gonna bank energy, switch into the Magneton, but no. Azumarill makes the charge attack. It's just the Ice Beam, but that's still valuable HP lost. Back in comes Morpeko. This is going to be close. Magneton has to get the double up here on discharges if it wants to win the game. Psychic Fangs from Morpeko, switching back to the Hangry form. Only 1 away from the discharge. And it all comes down to this. Does Morpeko have the charge stack loaded here? Discharge is going to be shielded. They do not. And Magneton will take the win. Magneton KOs Morpeko with a discharge. And that's a good game. We see a big core breaker on the lead in the next match, Galarian Moltres into Lucario. This is a Bullet Punch Lucario. Even the resisted Bullet Punches do a sizable amount of damage to Tentacruel. Tentacruel gonna no shield, Aura Sphere lands, that is very big damage, and now the opponent sends out Primeape. There's a very real chance this is going to be a triple fighter team. That's a team that I actually featured on the channel some weeks back, and if it is, then the final Pokemon is Pangoro, and that is a huge problem for the Magneton. Shield comes up from Tentacruel, going for another Acid Spray. Does the opponent really want to shield an Acid Spray here? No, they're just going to let themselves get KO'd, and Moltres goes for the snipe. And it is the triple fighter team. It's Pangoro in the back, and what do you do when your opponent has triple fighters, and you have a fighting weakness in the back with Magneton? The shield comes up from Pangoro. Pangoro should just always go straight close combat here. Moltres going to be no shielding. There's the close combat, taking the KO, and this is going to be very difficult. Opponent saves Pangoro, resets that -2 defense drop, and pivots back into Lucario. The Acid Spray from Tentacruel gets the shield, and maybe there's a chance. Oh my goodness, the opponent lost count, and that is the opening that was needed to win this game. Because they don't get a second Aura Sphere, they get farmed down, and now Pangoro is getting absolutely deleted with a Magnet Bomb. 3 Pokemon with fighting typing, and Magneton still somehow claws its way back and takes the win. A familiar lead and an unwelcome one in the next match leading into Wigglytuff. The safe switch into Tentacruel is going to be answered with Mandibuzz. Wigglytuff plus Mandibuzz, not a duo that I've seen together in quite some time. Wigglytuff did not want to deal with those super effective acids, but the Mandibuzz will take some pretty substantial damage from Scald. Shield comes up from Tentacruel on the foul play. Does Tentacruel dare to go for the Acid Spray? No. Going to anticipate the no shield and fire off the Scald. Scald does get shielded by the Mandibuzz. Tentacruel trying to make it to another Scald, and now gonna no shield. Is it the Shadow Ball? No, it's the foul play. Foul play misses the knockout, and at the very least, Tentacruel will get to set up that 1-0 shield advantage that Magneton loves so much. In comes Magneton in the back. No, it's Bastiodon, and this is not what you're hoping to see. Magneton will hit for neutral damage with these Shadow Magnet Bombs. Magnet Bomb is going to land, but Bastiodon is a rare Pokemon that can actually tank a neutral Magnet Bomb. The shield comes up from the Magneton. Magneton will have to try and manage energy very carefully. It needs to knock out the Bastiodon and exit with a ton of energy. Magnet Bomb will land. In comes Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres tries for the snipe down, does not get it. Wigglytuff gonna get smacked with a Brave Bird. The energy advantage on Moltres paying dividends. Brave Bird lands. Bye-bye Wigglytuff. They send in the Bastiodon. That gets farmed down too. In comes the Mandibuzz. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to the next match. Galarian Moltres cannot catch a break as it gets another terrible lead, leading into Alolan Ninetales. The safe switch into the Shadow Tentacruel is going to be answered with Sableye, and Sableye wins Charge Attack priority as it fires off the Foul Play. Foul Play lands. That's big damage onto the Tentacruel, but Tentacruel will hit hard in retaliation as it goes for the Scald. The Scald landing, does that let Tentacruel flip switch here? No, Tentacruel barely cannot get that farm down. Is Tentacruel 1 HP? Will this be a KO through the shield? No, it is not. Tentacruel had 2 HP, so it survives the 1 HP of damage through the shield and wins switch. Opponent reveals that their final Pokemon was Jellicent, so they were actually ABA weak to the Magneton. Unfortunately, the Ninetales with shield advantage, I think, is probably going to sweep this game. Even though it's a Ninetales into a Steel type, and that should be game over for the Ninetales. Look how much damage Weather Ball does. This poor Magneton is just getting shredded. Weather Ball gets shielded. Magneton farming up a ton of energy and is now at the back-to-back discharges. The Alolan Ninetales is low, but Ninetales should now have the Weather Ball. Ninetales gonna go for the extra Powder Snow. Ninetales wants as much residual energy as it possibly can. The shield comes up. 1 Powder Snow and the Weather Ball is perfect timing to ensure the Volt Switch damage never registers. And now when the Moltres gets brought back in, Moltres will take catastrophic damage from the Weather Ball. Weather Ball lands onto the Moltres. That gets Moltres low. In comes Jellicent. Jellicent, unfortunately, it's too healthy. It's guaranteed to live this fly. Moltres goes for the fly. Jellicent hangs on and makes the surf. Unfortunately, switch advantage on paper should have been a good thing, but it turns out the opponent was ABA weak to Magneton in the back, and with the shield advantage, the opponent is able to get the win. Man, Moltres cannot buy a break with these leads, now leading into Florges. Safe switch into the Tentacruel has a very important bait out, as it baits out the Stunfisk. Stunfisk gets debuffed as well. That means this Mud Bomb is suddenly way less damage. Mud Bomb lands, Tentacruel does not care, and Tentacruel, thanks to the cheaper pacing on Acid Spray, will make it to the Acid Spray. Acid Spray gonna be no shielded by the Stunfisk. Does Tentacruel decide to play for alignment? Yes. Tentacruel puts up the shield. Opponent gets aggressive, pivots into Galarian Moltres, and in comes Magneton. Magneton, these Volt Switches are criminal. Firing off the discharge, Moltres letting itself get KO'd, but unfortunately the Sucker Punch damage, it just hits so hard. Back in comes the Florges. Magneton will make the discharge, but Florges can look to shield, massively overfarm, and Florges should always fire off the Trailblaze at this Magneton. They want to try and exit this matchup boosted. Throwing the Chilling Water here, which they do, is a strict misplay, because either Charge Attack would have knocked out. By Trailblazing, then they would have been boosted for this Galarian Moltres matchup. So this is a pretty big break for Tangy. They go for a Trailblaze here. I don't think that was the play. They get farmed down by Tentacruel. Tentacruel exits on 1 HP with the Acid Spray, and they just got it all wrong in this game. Acid Spray lands. They get farmed down. I think they had a real chance to win that game, but unfortunately they did not throw their moves in the correct order, and that cost them dearly. Great lead in the final match, leading Galarian Moltres into Torterra. Bonus safe switches into Shadow Drapion, and this is a core breaker for this team. Drapion fires off the Aqua Tail. That does do some sizable chip damage, and now Moltres will return fire with the fly, get the shield, and send out Tentacruel. Unfortunately, Tentacruel's pacing not the fastest compared to Drapion, so Tentacruel is going to lose a lot of its health bar unless it puts up the shield. The shield comes up, Tentacruel just going to look to overfarm. Switch clock is guaranteed to be up now for the opponent, so they can look to just switch out and save the Drapion, but no, they're staying on the field. Their switch clock is up. They do not want to lock that Torterra. They're just going to let themselves get KO'd, and by not saving the Drapion, that is very, very nice, because Drapion is a big problem for this team. Torterra is going to get a full Mud Slap farm down, exiting with a decent amount of energy, but losing a lot of HP along the way. In the back is Carvink. Oh no, and Carving's about to get absolutely destroyed. In comes Shadow Magneton. Magneton no shields the Rock Slide. That is matchup knowledge right there. I would have shielded. I would have been too afraid that it would have done too much damage, but Magneton barely hangs on. Bang, one hit knockout with the Magnet Bomb. Back in comes Torterra. Torterra just giving up, letting that Magnet Bomb land as well. And oh my goodness, what a way to end out these battles. All in all, many thanks to Tangy for sending in this footage. These battles were incredibly fun. As I mentioned at the start, this is a team that's for fun, it's not for climbing, as you can tell by the Shadow Magneton on the team, but man, he made Shadow Magneton look pretty deadly. Using glass cannons like Magneton is always going to be high risk, high reward. If you're able to have very good energy management, if you're able to try and generate shield advantages, an opportunity to get an energy advantage, then your glassy sweeper, that spice pick, can potentially put in quite a massive amount of work. But also the reverse is true. If your opponent is able to get the shield advantage, if they have the energy lead, then unfortunately a Pokemon like Magneton, we saw what happened in that Jellicent battle where a Surf basically picked up a one-shot. And that's a Surf from a Jellicent. Jellicent doesn't have a particularly high attack, but that's just the nature of Pokemon like this. They're so frail. But man, I really enjoyed seeing a bunch of Wigglytuffs get absolutely deleted, even with the Charm rework. Technically, Wigglytuff is slightly more energy oriented than it was before. Man, I still just don't care for that Mon. Wigglytuff is a Mon that I would still enjoy seeing a nerf for in March. Although, to be fair, I feel like I want pretty large-scale nerfs for most moves in March, because I feel like the power level has just consistently been increased and increased and increased, and I think a return to a lower power level for a while could end up being pretty nice. So moves like Mud Slap, Charm, Astonish, I'm probably missing some off the top of my head. Oh, Smackdown for sure. Please get Smackdown out of here. Bullet Punch as well. Like, tuning down a lot of these moves to a lower power level could potentially help other Pokemon rise to the top. Where I feel like for a while, anytime something is problematic, we just buff something to make it better, and that just continually results in more and more power creep. So I obviously don't know what's going to happen in March, but my hope is that we end up seeing a lot of Pokemon that aren't the greatest get buffs, but I do also want to see quite a few nerfs as well, just to kind of lower the overall power level of the meta, because my goodness, this is probably the highest power level meta we've ever seen in Pokemon Go PvP. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.